Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Sarvamangala Mangale Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanyitrambike Gauri Narayani Namostute Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Mahasaraswati Rupena Samstita Namastasya 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 Namo Namaha Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Om Gunatito Aksharam Brahma Bhagavan Purushottamah Jano Janandidam Satyam Uchyate Bhavabandhanat Om Shri Swami Narayanaya Namaha Om Shri Lakshmi Narayanaya Namaha Om Shri Krishna Narayanaya Namaha Om Namah Shivaya Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 5th of December 2022. We are continuing our exploration today on this subject of Rog, Bhog and Yog. As we started talking about that yesterday, this is a very significant and relevant question in every human being's life. As Shankaracharya ji has talked about this excavation to discover the Atma by going beyond all of the distortions, disturbances, agnan, the problems of the mind and whatnot, to break through all of that and to discover the effulgent reality that is the Atma Tattva, that is the divinity itself, that is who you really are. So to recognize that, to be in that path to realize this, the experience of this material world is there for us. Yesterday we talked about how Bhog begins. What is this Bhoga? There's so much to be said about it, but the fact of the matter is that there is ego, ahankar involved in this. The I that says, I want whatever it is. Okay, put in any object, situation, places, circumstances. It is experience. That I want that experience. Somebody says, okay, I want to drink alcohol, or I want to drink a Diet Coke, or I want to eat an apple pie, or I want whatever. So there's desires, needs, wants, longings, cravings. All of these things are within our human system. So we have been examining the Navaran mantra and the Namah Shivaya mantra, how they connect in terms of this bhukti and mukti. So to go further from where we were last time, there's a couple of other concepts that are related that we want to really make sure we understand them as thoroughly as possible. And these are what are known as sanskaras. Sanskar, what is meant by sanskar, and what is meant by the term vasana. This is a very relevant question. So sanskars are what? These are tendencies that can lead us into further entanglement, further ignorance. They're tendencies based on experience. So for example, let's say Sachin has never eaten an apple pie, but first time in life, I put that in my mouth. Oh, this is apple pie. This is an object. Or a gulab jam. Let's say gulab jam, we use that as an example. So when I eat that the first time, immediately sanskara is formed. Sanskara is in the memory. It is an impression of the entire experience itself. So every experience through the senses continuously forms sanskaras. Okay, no doubt. Like just today, we have started satsang at 8:30, so we listen to Ganesh Prarthana, we listen to the Vaibhav Lakshmi Prarthana. Now we're contemplating on the Vivekchudamaniverse. This is creating a sanskar. So this is the general meaning of the word sanskar. Some people use this word just to mean like good impressions, good sanskar, shubh sanskar. Yeah, that is a category. That is a type of sanskar. But sanskaras, by definition, in terms of their actual sense, is that they are tendencies that are formed due to experience. So I eat an apple pie, and I eat the apple pie. There's the memory, there's the experience, and then it's inside the chitta, and then from there it comes up again later on, a week from now, a few days from now. Says, oh, that was really nice. So I remember the remembering, smriti capacity to remember, oh, that was very nice. So what am I remembering? I'm remembering the enjoyment associated with that object. Is it not so? If I said that this gulab jam was very nice, so then as time goes on, the mind reverts back into the storehouse of sanskars and goes back there to try to repeat that experience again. That attempt to repeat the experience, okay, that occurs because the sanskara comes up, and as the sanskara comes up, it is dwelling inside the memory. So when the mind begins to dwell in the memory and attempts to repeat that, that is called vasana. Now we see the relationship between sanskars and vasana. See this point very clearly, that the vasanas are erupting by dwelling in memory. And vasanas are one's inherent latencies and tendencies resulting from our previous actions. See this point clearly. They are latencies, meaning that they're latently there. Latent meaning they're dormantly there. And then they make up the tendencies, which then impact our identity, our personality, our sense of who I am as a psychological being. Right? I hope you're following this very carefully. Now, when these vasanas come up of all different kinds, they govern the psyche. You know, they put a lot of pressure on decision making, on taking action, because they are a force that says, go and get that gulab jam, go to that restaurant, go here, go there, go here, do this, to gain that experience again. And the more we gain it, the more the memories are solidified, and then as time goes on, the force of the vasanas gets stronger because of its conditioning and repetition. This is in psychology called classical conditioning, operant conditioning. There's a lot of ways to understand that. There's a lot of technical knowledge behind that also, how that works. But in simple language, we know that the more we repeat a cycle, it comes back and it generally gets stronger because there's a tolerance effect. There's a sense of, well, I've had this before, now I want some additional stimulation, I wanted to repeat it. It goes further to try to reopen the intensity of enjoyment and pleasure. So the whole samsara, everybody in the samsara is running after trying to expand pleasure, trying to expand enjoyment, trying to expand that sense that I can just keep this going further, I can expand it. In the Upanishads, this is called preyas. Upanishads make a distinction between shreyas and preyas. Shreyas is that which is good for us. Preyas is that which is pleasing and enjoyable. Now, there are many questions that pop up. One is that, should we not have pleasure in life? Does it mean you don't have any pleasure? No, it doesn't mean that. It is to determine the kinds of enjoyments that do not create harm. Now, this is where this Navaran mantra really comes into the picture. When we chant the Navaran mantra, Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, this mantra, as we mentioned yesterday, it awakens that buddhi to say, wait a minute, there is a certain limit in this experience. The ego is trying to expand the experience, to recognize from inside my ego's attempt to expand the experience. That recognition of the ego's attempt is the power of the Aim Bij mantra. That is Maha Saraswati. Saraswati Devi gives the guidance to the sadhaka that, wait a minute, you're going this far, but your ego is also pushing you. So we have a choice to make. Do I Sachin goes just based on what the ego is demanding to get what it wants and try to fulfill some potent desires of different kinds? Or do we take that same ego, allow it to subside, and act and live according to the wisdom that is granted to us through the Bij Mantras. The decision to live according to the wisdom, the right decisions to be made, those decisions are going to create what is called Sadvasana. So Sadvasana or Ashubhasana gets destroyed. The negative things that can come about due to the vasanas, they get destroyed. And Sadvasana opens up. Sadvichar opens up. Sadvasana opens up so that the desire for liberation increases. The desire to know the truth increases. The desire to unravel the mysteries of existence and life increases. So that transformation from one state to another, from asadvasana to sadvasana, is also one of the big effects of the Navaran mantra. This is how these mantras impact us. They destroy the negative sanskaras and they create a beautiful energetic awareness. But remember always, when the mantras are chanted and after they're chanted, it is what we do with our free will that matters. We have awakened understanding. So many things are clear within our mind, but a person may deliberately choose not to take the right paths in life. You know, in the story in the Mahabharata, there is Duryodhana, right? The story of Duryodhana, who was one of the Kauravas, the head of the Kauravas. There's a statement in the Mahabharata that he would say, Janami dharmam nachame pravrutti, Janami adharman nachame nivrutti. I know what is the right thing in dharma and everything, but I'm not going to do that. It wasn't that he wasn't educated by the same guru that Dronacharya and all that. The stories in Mahabharata are there. He knows, just like Yudhishthir and other people in the Mahabharata, he knows exactly what is dharma. But he says, Janami dharma nachame pravrutti. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. So there is a little Duryodhan like this in every single person. We know so many things, but the egos and vasanas and other things show up. They say, no, I want to do this because I want that experience. And then the suffering occurs. The suffering occurs, definitely. The suffering is such because the ego, it damages, the harmful ego damages the individual by trying to expand that experience beyond a certain range. And then the ego is the me that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that is going to consume energy. Isko hi Rakshas kehte hain. Rakshas, you know, it's not like how they show in those movies and all that, 10 heads and 15 heads and with horrific faces and all that. What a depiction hai. Rakshasi ek vritti hai. It is a vritti that is generated from Ashubh sanskar through the ego. Rakshasi vritti, Asuri vritti, hateful vritti, negative vritti, hinsak vritti. Ye sab kya hai? Why this is there? It is there because of the individualized ego. Now somebody will ask the question, why the ego is there? Why doesn't God just remove the ego? Well, that has to do with the fact that we are Jivatma. Jivatma has freedom. Given by Paramatma, no doubt, but the freedom is your own freedom. And you are not like that Paramatma that is degraded into the Jivatma. That's not who you are. You are not that Paramatma degraded into the Jivatma. That's not like that. Jivatma is caught by the Karan Sharir from time immemorial. Bhagwan jo hai, Paramatma, is not caught by anything. That is beyond Maya. The Brahma, Parabrahma are beyond Maya. The Jivatma is within Maya. So the ego is an expression of the attachment towards Mahamaya. Mahamaya is like a womb into the causal body, the Karan Sharir. These are all of the blockages that prevent us from realizing the ultimate truth. So we're within, the Jiva is constantly revolving within Mahamaya. So the Aim Rim Klim mantra, Navaran mantra, Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, this mantra, its real aim is to open that gateway outside of Maya. Out of Maya. But it also gives the experience through Maya. Because as we mentioned yesterday, there's two ways of getting out of Maya. One is through Jnana, by seeing the experience of others and staying away from lots of things that are binding, and then from that keeping attention on Paramatma, and then getting into moksha state. By seeing the experience of other people's bondage. For example, if Sachin has never drank alcohol, and I have not actually, thank God. But if I can see thousands of people, how they're trapped in alcoholism, the damage, the problem, I said, I don't even want to take a chance. I don't need to go through that to come out of it, because I can see the experience of others. But then somebody will say, well, how do you know what is the experience of alcohol? I don't know. I know, I have knowledge based on what others are saying. Others are experiencing the damage, the trouble. I can see all that. Plus, they're also high and dancing and doing all kinds of crazy things, when they're high. Okay. Driving also when they're drunk. This is an example, right? But Sachin says, I don't want the pain. I don't want the pleasure. I don't want anything related to that. Because that pain and difficulty and the problems are all binding that come as part of that enjoyment. Sachin sees it in others and says Sachin doesn't want to do any part of that. So this is a secondary way. By looking at somebody else's experience, other people's experience, one keeps away from those experiences and continues along the journey with those experiences that can be useful, pleasing, beneficial, everything, but do not have binding and harm, do not cause terrible binding. That intelligence comes by seeing the experience of others. Now, if one says, wait a minute, I really want to experience it, then that intelligence may come by going through the experience. But that happens to very few people. People who go through the experience are trapped in the experience. Most of them. And they're trapped from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. But nonetheless, the Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, this mantra is especially useful for those who are trapped in the experience. Somebody is trapped in drug addiction, in alcoholism, in food addiction. Somebody is trapped in anger. Somebody has anger control problems. Somebody has lots of this deep-seated pain because some family member is gone, some animal is gone, some pet is gone. The pain and suffering is going on so much. This is a medicine for all that thing, for everybody. ये जो मंत्र है ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुंडाय विच्चे. This is a param, it is a औषध, param औषध. It is a medicine for human consciousness. एक बड़ी दवा है. And we don't realize it. We think of these mantras in terms of what? In terms of just, the Bhagwan ki bhakti karte. That's correct. But we put it into religious framework and all that. It's not just a religious or like a sectarian thing or something like that. Mata ji ki upasana, Devi ki upasana, Shiv ji ki upasana. And people say this is part of Hinduism. No, that is not true. That is totally false, in fact. It is 100% false. This Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundai Viche, this is a medicinal mantra for the whole of humanity. It is going to fix damage that even psychiatric medications may not be able to fix. It has that kind of potential power. But one has to experiment with it. One has to experience it. And one has to see what it is all about. If Sachin says Sachin is caught in some difficulty, generally what do we say? Okay, you try to solve the problem, get help from others, and Bhagwan par chhod do, Bhagwan ki bhakti karo. This is a general language we use. But that language is not adequate. When we understand that each Ved mantra, each mantra of Shiv Shakti are specifically to break through the disturbances and problems and difficulties and obstacles for all of humanity, then that mantra is done, and from that intelligence awakens. It gives so much positive energy and it allows one to see the path ahead towards moksha. That is the medicine. So people who are trying to come out of problems of life addiction problems, family problems, anger problems, emotional problems, financial problems. You can just keep listing them. It is an endless list. Problems with family, problems with children, problems with divorces, problems with this and problems with that, and legal problems, any and all kinds of problems. Whatever they are, Navaran mantra and Namah Shivaya mantra are going to obliterate them completely if we increase the sadhana. Increase it, leave it to Bhagavan. Eventually, in time, the situation will all change and it will obliterate it. In its own way. It obliterates, but we have to be careful not to add to the difficulty. Generally, what people do is that they are doing some sadhana and then they are also destroying the effect of the sadhana, the blessings from the sadhana, by going back into ignorance and going back into raga and dvesha and going back into old cycles, old harmful habitual patterns that created the problem to begin with. So for example, they use the alcohol example, somebody's drinking alcohol. Now they start doing the mantra sadhana. Once you start doing the mantra sadhana, you will not want to drink so much. The drinking will go down and it will stop. But then it might stop for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. And they say, okay, now it's okay. But then they stop the sadhana also. So then the drinking will start up again. I mean, social drinking, recreational drinking is one thing. I'm talking about alcoholism. People who are addicted. For them, they cannot drink. One drink is never, no drink is enough. It's like that. Cigarette smoking is like that too. Or anger is like that. Some people have anger control, severe anger control problems. These kids have these problems also. Kids that are hitting walls and banging heads and all these kinds of difficulties. These problems of the mind, there's a big solution here, and that is Namah Shivaya mantra and the Navaran Mahamantra. But it has to be chanted with bhakti bhav, with the intention of getting out of the difficulty, and from there to recognize the ego and leaving it aside. Otherwise, one will go into cyclical sadhana. Sadhana is going for some time, then the sadhana stops and the doshas and the problems come again, and then so then the one swings back and forth. Pendulum effect. This happens a lot with so many people who are on spiritual path. Probably 90%, maybe more. They do some sadhana and then their vasanas and other sanskaras, they say, oh, I really want these other things. So they swing away. They do not complete the sadhana up to a siddha state. Mantra siddha kab hota hai? Once you have left aside all of the ashubha vasanas and said, this mantra is me and my Paramatma, that's it, and my Guru. And let's continue all the way to the end point, which is the realization of the truth. Otherwise, one will be swinging back and forth, cycling back and forth. So this problem is described in many scriptures. In Vachanamrut also, in Garada Antya number 2 Vachanamrut. Maharaj has beautifully talked about this problem. So as satsang increases, bhajan, bhakti, kirtan, mantra, sadhana, everything increases. It's called chitta vibrant, that from kam, krodh, lobh, moha, these doshas come about and they split away. They split the sadhaka into 2 parts. One part is one who wants to realize God. The other part wants to just keep experiencing these worldly desires. And then so there's a conflict between the two, and that conflict tears apart the individual. Between the two, most people on spiritual path are stuck in this conflict, and they cannot go up and they cannot go down also. They're trapped in the middle somewhere. A lot of people, massive, in the millions we can say, throughout the world are stuck in the middle. They're not able to go up into the Paramatma, and they're not able to, and they're still doing some sadhanas and spiritual activity, but their other internal enemies, internal vasanas and desires are pulling them. It's pulling from both sides. So now there's an internal Kurukshetra, internal battle going on. One part of the mind says yes, another part of the mind says no, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. It is the battlefield. The mind becomes a battlefield in sadhana. So one has to be careful Now somebody will say, wait a minute, I don't want that battle to happen, so I'm not going to do any sadhana. Well, if you don't do any sadhana, if you have so much difficulty, problems and whatnot, right? So sadhana is necessary, but sadhana has to be done without getting into that internal battle. Is it not so? We don't want that internal fight, because that fight is not worth getting into. There's a lot of damage in that fight. So how to get out of that fight? Steady, disciplined practice. Regular practice of sadhana will discipline the mind, and it will allow for all of the ashubh sanskars, ashubh problems, the difficulties and the negative sanskars, all that to be wiped out. But give it some time. But it requires regular practice. Shraddha. Shraddha sarvesham mata. This is written in Satsang Jivan. Satsang Jivan एक बहुत बड़ा ग्रंथ है. वो एक स्वामीनारायण संप्रदाय का ग्रंथ है. Written by Shatanand Muni. It's 18,000 verses in Sanskrit. 18,000 Sanskrit verses are there. और उसका सारांश क्या है? भगवान की उपासना, भगवान का स्वरूप और श्रद्धा. श्रद्धा सर्वेशाम माता. बहुत बड़ा ग्रंथ है. It's a very deep subject in Swaminarayan Satsang. Most people never heard the name even, but it is one of those things, you know. We have heard of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. That is of the avatar. So this particular scripture is on the life of Sajanand Swami Maharaj. But it has amazing stuff inside there. You know, the point I'm trying to make there is that Shraddha. Without Shraddha, there is no progress. Look at what the Gita is saying. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparah sayatendriyah jnanam labdva param shantim achirenadhi gacchati. See, Shraddha leads to jnana. Somebody will say, no, you know, will have jnana without Shraddha. It will not work that way. Shraddha means an abiding faith in the path, because we have not seen what it is unless one has some faith to start the sadhana. If somebody says to an individual, do these mantras, okay, you start doing them, you don't have Shraddha, but Shraddha will develop. Shraddha is a great power. That is a great confidence, that is a great reliance. And from that Shraddha means a very great conviction that this is the right path. And from that, the sadhanas increase. Sadhana is necessary. But sadhana leads to, when the time is right, it is krupa. It leads to Bhagwan ki krupa. Bhagwan ki krupa. What is that krupa? It takes us out of all of the agitations and one is freed. One gets freed from the problems and entanglements. That is Bhagwan ki krupa. So, Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Labate means obtains. Obtains what? Jnana. Realizes jnana. And that is the beauty of living in the sansar with this openness, with this understanding. Otherwise, we are so much the victims of our vasanas. V-O-V, victims of vasana. Victimized by vasanas. Victimizing others for vasanas. See, victimized by vasanas, victimizing others for vasanas, victimized by vasanas. Vasana becomes so predominant. It is such a force inside. And that force is itself transformed by mantra sadhana. Otherwise, look at the wars going on. Look at the problems going on in the sansar. How many people are continuously in conflict? Why is that? Because of their inherent desires. I want this and I want this and I want this and I want, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Now, what is the Shakti Upasana and Shiva Upasana? How do they give the guidance? If you have desire, you can ask Paramatma, but that desire should not be to harm somebody else. I mentioned it many times before. So leave those aside. Desire should be recognized so it doesn't harm us. Many times desires come about, like the alcohol example, or the cigarette example, or the addictions example are easy to understand. Krodh also, lobh, kam, krodh, lobh. These things are harmful after a certain point. So when we recognize that this is causing damage and harm, I don't want that damage. Not wanting to create harm for others, not wanting to create harm for oneself. That is called ahimsa. Ahimsa paramo dharma. Why ahimsa? What is ahimsa and what is hinsa? Hinsa means violence. It means causing violence and damage. We don't realize how much violence we are causing to our own self. And that is because we are wanting certain experiences, and those experiences are deeply sought after because of their qualitative nature. Someone wants to punch somebody, they're thinking about it for a long time, and then they cannot wait to hit that person. And when they actually hit that person, there's a satisfaction. Yes, I got. There's a me, the I, that is deeply satisfied, that has gotten this jolt of enjoyment or pleasure. That is ego. And the deity, this is a little metaphysical thing, the deity that is in charge of that energy is Rudra. वो भगवान शंकर का एक अंश है. The Rudra is what? Rudra is that force that is inside Ahankar. Ahankar has a lot of energy inside. Tremendous amount of energy. But so that energy comes from Rudra, which is part of Bhagwan Shankar. And when we have Ahankar, and when we are acting out of Ahankar, and the force that comes out of it, that is interacting with other people's Ahankar. That is why when the Rudram is chanted, the Shri Rudram, Namaste astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Trimbakaya Tripurantakaya Trikagni Kalaya Kalagni Rudraya Neelakantaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Shriman Mahadevaya Namaha. Namaste astu Rudraya. The Rudram is chanted as a prarthana using, this is in the Veda mantras, for the Rudra Shakti to pull away its power from all of those people and situations and circumstances that are connected to you in terms of the egotistical, harmful connection with them. It is a prayer for Rudra to put down all the arrows. Does that make sense? It is arrows or what? Those, okay. Let's say for example, Sachin has a conflict with somebody else. That conflict of the egos, that is coming from the Rudra Shakti. The ability to even have the conflict is coming from Rudra Shakti. That is why Bhagwan Shankar is in charge of Rajogun and Tamogun. So when Rudra is worshipped, the people, life and circumstances and negative situations that are connected with one's own life circumstances due to attachments and ego, that is put away. That is called Rudram. It has much more meaning than that, but that is at least its initial meaning. That is why in so many temples the Rudram is chanted. And it has tremendous benefit. Tremendous good quality energy comes from chanting Rudram, Shri Rudram. And then the Chamakam. Chamakam are all the blessings. Once all of those negative things are put away, all the energies connected with the ego are put away. Blessing, 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 blessing. Everything we are connected with, the whole of universal reality. That is Chamakam. That everything is mine not in terms of ego, but it is accessible to the one being is connected with all. That is Chamakam. So Rudram and Chamakam is amazing. It's tremendous things that are there in the Vedas. but where they come from, why the mantras are so powerful. See, the Mahamrityunjay mantra is also part of the Rudram. It's one of the mantras, and these are all mantras, and they are very, very intense. They're अलौकिक mantra है, वो भगवान शंकर की पूजा है. But when the mantras are chanted or they are heard, even if you don't know how to speak, if you listen with the Omkar in the background, it's very powerful. Have a Pandit do it, or there's also some good, nice audios that are available. And with the Shivling, with some Shiv Puja, you can always listen to Rudram and Chamakam. So there's a Nyasa, then Rudram and Chamakam. And when we do that, all of the negative forces that are connected to us through our causal body, through the Sukshma Sharir, because of conflicts with others, entanglements with others, because of Raga and Dvesha and Ahankar, with all of that stuff that is there, the first thing Rudram does, it obliterates that. That is what it does first. And then when you chant the Rudram further, then it takes you further, into the Shiva itself, into the Atma itself. And there's a lot of metaphysics about the Kailasa. There's 2 Kailasas and all that. वो सब आगे की बात है. Those are high-level metaphysics, what that is exactly. There's a Kailasa in the Himalayas, then there's a Kailasa outside the 14 lokas. Uska, how that is accessed, that is a little deeper subject. Some other time we will maybe cover that. The point here simply is that when Shankaracharya ji is saying that you want to dig deeper, this is the process of sadhana that will allow us to go towards Paramatma. So the mantra sadhana, Om Aim Rim Glim Chamundai Viche, is the Maha Mantra of all Shakti Upasana. Namah Shivaya mantra is the Maha Mantra, it's a bijam. Namah Shivaya iti bijam, Mahadevaya iti kilakam. So Namah Shivaya is a bij mantra that will open the doorway into Kailasa, the higher Kailasa. Just like Om Namo Narayanaya is a mantra that will open the door into Vaikuntha. Om Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama, or Hare Krishna mantra. The Krishna mantras open the door into Goloka. These are different abodes. These are dham. They're called different. They're divine abodes of God. इसको धाम कहते हैं. भगवान का धाम वो क्या है? That is another very deep subject. High level, ऊपर की बात है. Metaphysical बात है वो. Right? But each mantra has an ultimate destination. Like that. So, depending on which mantra is chanted, the destination is set. Gayatri mantra has a certain destination in the Brahmand, like the Surya Narayana, etc. So who is giving the mantra? Where did the mantra come from? What is the effect of the mantra? And what is the destination of the mantra? This all varies significantly. There are mantras just for the Navgraha, 9 grahas. Each graha has its own mantra. Right? So they're accessible through mantra. This is the point. Mantras are access points into those higher states of reality. So, not all mantras are the same. Yes, they do all come from Omkar. We can say that. Yes, Om mein sab kuch hai. But that is Akshara Brahma, highest of reality. But all the other mantras have destination points. It is like that. So the Gayatri mantra is not the same as Mahamrityunjay mantra. It has a different destination point. There is a similarity, there's a certain overlap, but the destination point is different. The Rishi is different. The Markandeya Rishi gave the Mahamrityunjay mantra. Vishwamitra Rishi gave the Gayatri mantra based on his realization. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given the Hare Krishna mantra, but that was in the Vedas, but he reversed it. Ramanujacharya has given the Ashtakshara mantra, Sri Krishnam Tvam Gatir Mama. Every Acharya is given a mantra. Sajanand Swami Maharaj gave Swami Narayan mantra, Shadakshari mantra. Each mantra has a specific purpose and it has a destination. It is like that. The different mantras of the goddess, each form of the goddess has its own mantra. Mahalakshmi ji ke mantra hai, Mahasaraswati के मंत्र है, महाकाली के मंत्र है, बगलामुखी के मंत्र है, चामुंडा देवी के मंत्र है, Durga Devi ke mantra, there are specific mantras for all of the forms. The 10 Mahavidyas, 10 Mahavidya, they all have their mantras. Tara mantra hai. So many are there. Right? So these are the Mahavidya, what they will cover that probably next time or maybe the time after, what they are, how they relate to Vivekchudamani. But this is the glory of this sadhana. As we continue our progression towards Paramatma, we realize that each mantra, when it is spoken, and then the sadhana solidifies further towards one swarup, one mantra, one shastra, one guru, one mind. Then you are digging. Then the khananam, that's the second word in this verse we're looking at. Now the digging begins. You are digging in one place. And when you dig further in one place, the discovery of the beautiful realization will be there. So it's good to have one solid mantra, one solid path given by Guru, Sadguru. If one doesn't know that for sure, you can do different things. Make Hanumanji Guru, make Bhagwan Krishna Guru, Bhagwan Shankar Guru. They will guide automatically. What is the right? It will come from inside. And you will know automatically, I want to do this, follow this path. It will come this way. But Namah Shivaya mantra, everybody can do. Navaran mantra, everybody can do. That is a very powerful, very good way to progress beautifully. And in doing so, lot of steadiness. Be very steady and be very aware. I'm telling myself, this is everything Sachin is speaking is first for this person. Sachin has no right to tell anybody anything. No, not to preach anything to anybody. When we talk, we speak for our own development. If it helps others, Paramatma ki Ichha, Guru Ichha. We're not in charge of anybody else. This is another most important thing to realize. Be in charge of yourself. Don't worry about other people. Aisi baat hai. Love others, serve others. Take care of your own development. That is a most relevant thing. That is just sharing with you all, but that is for me first, right? So for this person first. So these are the beautiful ideas. The attempt here is to synthesize and pull together and share with the world community these truths that are universal for everybody to drink. It is a reservoir. इसको हम कहते हैं ना वो ज्ञान सरोवर है. It is a sarovar means it's a lake of wisdom. Pure water is there in Vivekchudamani. Pure amrit. It is amrutam that is there in the Bhagavad Gita. That is there in these mantras. It is amrutam to be drank for everyone. It is not that there is a certain group of people only this is for. No. It is for everybody. Sarva jiva hitavaha. Sarvetraha sukhina santu. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukham. This truth is for all, right? So we will stop here for today. We will continue. It's a very beautiful way to keep moving ahead. Very easy to understand also in many ways. And with the prayers to all the sages, to all the incarnations, to all the avatars, and to the Supreme Paramatma, may God and all the sages bless everybody. Let's do the closing prarthana, and then we will continue tomorrow. So